Much of the political and online discourse was taken up this week with the furore that erupted over Pauline Hanson's controversial and, crucially, hypothetical question, which I will replay here so that it is in its proper context and not distorted and misrepresented as it has been by almost every other reporter and commentator.
Their religion concerns me because what it says in the Quran, they hate Westerners, and that's what it's all about. You know, you say, oh, well, there's good Muslims out there. Well, I'm sorry. How can you tell me there are good Muslims? If jihad is ever called, and people must understand this, go and research, go and understand about this.
So I repeat, for those who seem to struggle with comprehending the word if, the lengthy discussion between Senator Hanson and Sharri Markson was clearly about radical Islam and the literal teachings of the Quran, to which Pauline Hanson said, you say, oh, well, there's good Muslims out there. Well, I'm sorry. How can you tell me there are good Muslims if jihad is ever called? People must understand this, go and research, end of quote. And again, for the dimwits, quote, how can you tell me there are good Muslims if jihad is ever called? End of quote. Now, most news outlets literally cut that sentence in half and disingenuously cut out the critical qualifier, if jihad is ever called. So forget all the hysterical responses, forget all the lies and misrepresentations. That is what the One Nation leader actually said. Now, please go and debate that hypothetical comment in its proper context, and then you may condemn it or dissect it or agree with it or disagree with it or whatever. But Pauline did not state there are no good Muslims, as has been almost universally reported. She may or may not have implied as such, but she did not state that. Her question was basically, how should we expect Quran-observant Muslims to behave in the hypothetical scenario of a jihad or a holy war being called for? A jihad, as is well known, is a term which appears many times in the Quran, and it means everything from a personal spiritual struggle to outright holy war against the non-believers. Here's the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of jihad. 1, a holy war waged on behalf of Islam as a religious duty. Also, a personal struggle in devotion to Islam, especially involving spiritual discipline. 2, a crusade for a principle or belief. End of definition. So, clearly the term jihad can range from a peaceful inner struggle of some sort to outright violent conflict, which is presumably why Pauline Hanson was adamant, telling viewers to go and research the term for themselves rather than take her or anyone else's word for it. She did this as she posed her question, which again, I'll repeat for those who seem determined to put their own spin on her words. Quote, how can you tell me there are good Muslims if jihad is ever called? Question, end of quote. Now, that is what is called a hypothetical. Our politicians love dismissing awkward questions, none more so than our Prime Minister, on the grounds that that's a hypothetical. Here's just one example in a different context.
Well, look, that's a hypothetical, which I'm not going to go into.
How often have we heard that during election campaigns and elsewhere? That's a hypothetical. Ooh. Funnily enough, we used to love discussing hypotheticals in Australia. We even had a TV show hosted by uber lefty and now human rights guru Jeffrey Robertson called Hypotheticals.
And Ned Kelly becomes the emblem of the thing we didn't dare to do. Still a lawbreaker and still a bad man, but God, you wouldn't want to go to a dance with no bad men at it, would you?
I
I don't know. Tan Lee, would you like to go to a dance with no bad men at it?
No, definitely not.
You escaped from pirates and communists and you've come to a country whose
right, but I think
national hero is an
Jermaine's
outlaw.
idea of a bad man is a bit different.
I was lucky to meet Geoffrey Robertson a couple of times. We were on Q&A together one time and I asked him whether he'd ever bring hypotheticals back again, hypothetically. But alas, he demurred at the suggestion. Still, if Geoffrey won't do it, I would love to. Let's get a panel of lefty experts together, you know, maybe Penny Wong. She loves the ABC. Maybe Tony Burke. I met him on Q&A once too. Or maybe Tim Flannery for a bit of a laugh. And maybe Jamal Rifi as soon as he gets back from whatever he's doing over there in Syria. We could get Grace Tame too for good measure. Maybe Lydia Thorpe, chuck in a couple of imams from Lakemba for a bit of, you know, local expertise. Or maybe that bloke Sheikh Ibrahim Dadoun, you know, this guy. I don't know if he does much telly these days.
I'm smiling and I'm happy. I'm elated. It's a day of courage. It's a day of happiness. It's a day of pride. It's a day of victory. This is the day we've been waiting for.
That was less than 24 hours after the butchery and savagery of October 7th, 2023. Dadoun, of course, wasn't alone that night in Greenacre celebrating the atrocious killings, rapes and savage butchery of October 7th. But Mr. Dadoun and others took to the streets to show their excitement and their approval for the Palestinian cause.
Live from Greenacre. Live from Greenacre.
Anyway, I digress. Back to my TV show. Once I've assembled my lefties rock star panel, got them all together in the studio for my new version of Hypotheticals, I will start by warming them up with a few easy questions. You know, you're on a train ride and you go into the first class compartment and there are only 2 free seats. One of them is next to Donald Trump and the other one is next to Benjamin Netanyahu. What do you do? That sort of fun thing. Or I'll say, so you're stranded on a desert island with this beautiful chick who tells you she's a dedicated vegan who is passionate about net zero carbon emissions, but the only food there is to eat on the island is an animal, and the only way to cook it is over hot coals. What do you do? Hypothetically. Then, when the show is bubbling along nicely, I'll throw in this curly hypothetical. You are a wonderful, devout and peace-loving Muslim who reads the Quran religiously and prays 5 times a day, who, hypothetically, is living on the outskirts of a decadent Western city, and your local imam, who is a very good man, for some weird reason declares a holy war against non-believers. What do you do? And that, in my opinion, was the essence of the question Pauline Hanson was posing to Shari Markson. Now, I have no idea how our esteemed panel on my hypothetical hypotheticals would respond to such a hypothetical question. One can only imagine. But wouldn't it be nice to know? And guess what, folks? You only get to answer hypotheticals if somebody, like Geoffrey Robertson or Pauline Hanson, actually poses the hypothetical question. Meanwhile, and completely unrelated to my local game of hypotheticals over in New York, many individuals are responding to the new vibe in town now that New York has a very popular, recently elected Muslim mayor, Zoran Mamdani.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Giving that, yo, make some noise from the brother water right now, baby. MashaAllah, yeah. Takbir! Oh, don't scare them, brothers. Relax. They're over here on purpose to be like, oh my God. Who's seen those videos where they're like, oh my God, the Muslims are taking over New York City? You seen those? You seen those? Let them know that we are taking over New York City. Takbir! Oh my God.
That's New York these days with the now annual Ramadan prayer. Not quite how I remember Times Square, but there you have it. Nothing hypothetical about how that's all playing out, is there?